Can you hear me now, teacher? Yes. Okay. So good evening, dear teachers and our honorable guest speaker. So today we have a fantastic evening sharing section. And before we begin our section, let me introduce myself first. I'm Tunanda, one of the working team members of MMTSOR. So as we all know, MMTSOR is the platform for the teachers throughout Myanmar, to learn, develop, and grow together professionally. So whenever there's a chance, we are here to support our teachers' will in ELT, through collaborated knowledge sharing sections. And of course, with the help of our professional teachers on a local and international level, we welcome any opportunities to promote the quality of our teachers. So let me introduce our very special guest speaker today, Beth. Before I go that way, let me summarize some of the interactions today. So today's sharing sections topic is scaffolding for effective learning. So this section will approximately last about 1 hour, and of course it will be recorded. And if you have any comments or if you would like to ask questions, you can use the chat box. And after the discussion, of course, there will be a 10-minute Q&A sections. So if you have any questions, you can turn off the mic and then you can ask the questions. And also at the end of the section, we're gonna provide you a link, a Google form, which will also collect your names so that we can give you the certificates. So lastly, it is our humble request to turn off your microphone while the speaker is sharing so that it will be very helpful for the speaker. So now it's time for us to get to know more about our today's special guest speaker. So I think we might already read about, the teacher's profile, but let me introduce our special speaker, Teacher Khaing. And we are very pleased to have Teacher Khaing here with us today. Teacher Khaing is now an ELT instructor at Acknowledged Education College in Melbourne, Australia. She is also a TESOL educator and researcher. She is also the primary presenter for the education talk program. And her educational experience was so wonderful that she finished with an MTSOL from Monash University, Australia in 2022. She also possesses the master's degree in English language and literature from Macquarie University. And also in 2014, she also taught a short course in education policy, governance, and educational leadership in New Zealand. Of course, before moving to Australia, she had worked in the higher education sector in Myanmar, teaching undergraduate and also postgraduate English specialization students at different universities. So it's very, very honorable for us to have teacher Khaing with us today. So thank you, teacher, for giving your precious time to be with us today. So now the floor is now to you, teacher. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, teacher, too, for a very beautiful introduction about me. So hello, everyone. My name is Thein, so as in the introduction, but you can call me Khai. I will be the main presenter today. But rather than presenting, it's more like I'm going to share what I know and what I have learned. And then, and also, so there will be in the Q&A section, so you can also ask the questions to me, and also you can share your ideas. So I hope that we can learn from each other from the meeting today. So I would like you guys to realize this meeting as a collaborated learning environment. Okay, so before I start my presentation, I would like to say thank you to CRE Mentor and also all the members of Myanmar TESOL Association for making this happen and for giving me this chance to make such a contribution. Okay, so now why not go straight to the presentation? Let me share my screen now. Sorry. Okay, so here is the topic that I'm going to work on today, scaffolding, or creating effective classrooms with teacher challenge and teacher support. So from the topic, we can see that there are some key terms that we need to explore, understand, and interpret. They are scaffolding, effective classrooms, teacher challenge, and teacher support. And also from the picture, I think that some of you may maybe already been familiar with the big term like zone or proximal development. But for some of you, especially early career teachers, you may not probably be familiar with the term, and you may already have a lot of questions about the term. So now let's go. Okay, so firstly, I would like you to ask yourself this question. How do you understand or define effective classrooms? Any ideas to share? Anyone who wants to share your ideas? What do effective classrooms mean to you? Okay, so what kind of classrooms do you think are effective classrooms? Just one or two ideas. Okay, so according to Mariani, 1997, classrooms with high challenge and high support are effective classrooms. So challenge, who creates challenge? So teachers. And who creates support? And who provides support? So teachers as well. So why do classrooms with high challenge and high support are effective classrooms? So let's see. So to answer these questions, I would like to show you the 4 zones of teaching and learning, so which is adapted from Mariani, 1997. So we will start looking at we will start looking at this zone, which is high challenge and low support. So let's look at this kind of classroom, high challenge and low support. So teacher creates challenging tasks, but with inadequate effort. So what can happen in this classroom? It's this kind of classroom results in students' anxiety and frustrations. So now why don't we, okay, let's reduce the challenge. So low challenge and low support. So what can happen in that kind of classroom? So obviously there is nothing new for the students to learn and to catch up. So the classroom is kind of boring. And also there may probably become some behavioral problems, like for example, students are not engaged in the lesson. So some students may probably be looking out of the window, and some students may probably be talking to each other, and some students may be using their phones and at the desk, so things like that. So how about another classroom, which is the classroom with low challenge and high support? So what can happen in this classroom? So quite the same, there is nothing new, there is no new knowledge and skills that students need to catch up. So, and also students get high support. So this kind of in this kind of classroom, students may probably working in the very comfort. So that kind of classroom is very comfort zone for the students. So no actual learning can occur in those kinds of classrooms. So here is the last one. High support and high challenge. So the classrooms with high challenge and high support, that is what Mariani is referring to as effective classrooms. So teachers create challenging tasks, and at the same time, teacher is giving enough support to help the students learn. So that kind of classroom is most effective classroom according to Mariani 1997. And this is the zone, this is the place where Vygotsky zone of proximal development is happening. And also this is the place where scaffolding is happening. So now let's move on to the next page. When we think about teacher support and teacher challenge, we cannot skip, we cannot leave Vygotsky's ideas of zonal proximal development and also scaffolding. Okay, to create effective classrooms, teaching and learning context. So teaching and learning context should be, how can I say? Teaching and learning context should be the classrooms for example. Okay, sorry. So to create effective classrooms, so teaching and learning context should be the place where students can accomplish the tasks with the help of the teacher. So look at this one. So here is the place of where zonal proximal development is happening. So without the help of the teacher, students cannot accomplish this task. Students cannot accomplish the tasks that teachers has created. So this is about zonal proximal development. But scaffolding is more than that. Okay, so here is the green area. This is where scaffolding is happening. Okay, so now teachers has created challenging tasks in the classroom. So students cannot accomplish this task with the help of the teacher. So students keep scaffolding. And after that, at a point, students become an independent learner with the teacher support. So at that moment, students can do students can work another new task in a new learning context. So at that time, they become independent learner. So at that time, teachers need to withdraw the scaffolding. Teachers need to withdraw their support. So this is where scaffolding is happening. Okay. So now, scaffolding. So to sum up the idea of scaffolding, scaffolding is the temporary support that is designed to provide the assistance necessary to enable learners to accomplish tasks and develop understandings that they will not quite be able to manage on their own. And in this, the idea of scaffolding, this is the whole image of scaffolding, the idea of scaffolding. In this idea, there are two important things that we need to consider. So they are the teachers need to, when the teacher gives scaffolding, the teacher needs to give the support at the point of need, timely support. And also, the support needs to be gradually withdrawn. Then to put it in other words, the needs, so the support needs to be progressively adjusted to address the needs of the students. That is how scaffolding works. Okay, so now we know how scaffolding works in the classroom. But before we give support to the students, we need to know how to create challenging tasks in the classroom, how to create cognitively demanding tasks in the classroom. So how can we make our classroom challenging? So here is the answer. That is Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy is a helpful way, a useful way that can help us to create challenging tasks or cognitively demanding tasks in the classroom. Here in the pyramid, you can see at the bottom of the pyramid, you can see remembering. So as you know, remembering is very, very important. It's extremely important step. It is extremely important to remember things. So that, and also that is actually remembering is lower order thinking. But based on this, we can move to other levels of thinking. So in remembering, students can recognize and recall relevant knowledge from long-term memory. So here are some useful verbs that are given to you that will help you to create challenging tasks and also the tasks that you would like to do for the students. So there are some useful verbs here: define, duplicate, list, memorize. They are related to the level of remembering. So the next level is understanding. So when students remember things in the content, they also need to, now they understand and they can construct meaning from oral and written and graphic message. So here again, there are some useful verbs interpret, exemplify, classify, and summarize. So for example, okay, and after the next level is applying. So after understanding things, students should be able to use the information in a new way. So again, there are some useful verbs here that you can use in creating the task. You can ask the students to demonstrate, dramatize, and interpret, for example. The next step is analyzing. So after applying the knowledge that they have learned, students can distinguish between parts and how they relate to each other and to the overall structure and purpose. So here, a range of verbs are given, like compare, contract, criticize, and differentiate, and so on. Note that there are some verbs appearing in different levels in both lower order thinking and also higher order thinking. So for example, you can see the word compare in understanding, and also it comes up again into analyzing. So you can ask the students. You can ask the students in different levels. So to compare at the analytical stage, so students are showing their understanding the difference between parts. But in understanding, students have been told. So we can say that, okay, I can compare because I have been told. So things like that. And then now evaluating, the next level is evaluating. So that is very close to the top. So in evaluating, students can make judgments and justify decisions. And here are also another important examples of verbs like appraise, argue, defense, judge, select, etc. And also, after evaluating, you can ask the students to put elements together to form a functional whole, create a new product or point of view. This is perhaps the most difficult and also the most cognitively demanding thinking. But this creating level based on every other different levels. So actually, this is building. This is not skipping. So when we use Bloom's taxonomy to create challenging tasks in the classroom, we cannot skip the lower thinking, the levels and lower order thinking, like remembering, understanding, applying. So, okay, I want to create challenging tasks in the classroom. So I will start students to analyze first, to evaluate first, to create first. We cannot do this. If we start with these levels, that is not scaffolding. So to be able to analyze, students need to remember the content, the language items, and they need to understand them. They need to apply them. After that, they will be able to analyze and evaluate and create it. So I said that this is a building, not a skipping. So if we want to use Bloom's taxonomy, we cannot skip any level. We have to move smoothly from lower order thinking to higher order thinking. So that is how we create. We can create challenging tasks in the classroom. Okay, so some teachers may probably think that when we create, just bringing in new content and new topics and new linguistic items like new grammar points and new vocabularies are challenging tasks for the students. But it's not necessarily to become very new topic and very unfamiliar topics for the students to make the class challenging. We can bring in very simple ideas, very simple content, and very simple topics, but with challenging questions by encouraging students lower order thinking to higher order thinking skills. So that is the point that I want to say here. Okay, but we are very lucky today because here we can get very good ELT course books in which there are already some questions which already encourage and foster students lower order thinking and higher order thinking skills, student critical thinking skills. So we don't need to create challenging tasks for the class that the books have already given to us. But the problem is that Okay, this is me in the past with straightforward text. So before I came to Australia, I had to teach, and you all know that we all had to teach straightforward text to the students. So the problem is that, okay, level 1, level 2, it's quite okay. But when we moved to level 3, so we had a problem, which is, and also my colleagues complained that the language items and also even the contents are, quite challenging for the students. So they are not aligned with the students' level. That is the complaints that we always had in our department, in the university where I worked. The thing is that we didn't have the idea of scaffolding. So we were just focused on how the content and the language items were quite challenging, and also the students' level are not aligned with the textbooks, so things like that. So I try to explain things again and again. Although I did not have the idea of scaffolding, sometimes before I taught the difficult language items, I sometimes remind the students what they have learned in the previous semester, so things like that. But I didn't have any idea of scaffolding. I didn't know that was the fact that I am doing scaffolding. I didn't know that. Okay, that also affect our assessment as well. Yeah, in my observation, some of our assessments were not aligned with the textbooks as well. That is the result of the fact that we couldn't help the students reach the level that they should be at the end of the semester, at the end of the year. So this example show how scaffolding is important. Okay, so now I have talked about what scaffolding is, and also height challenge and height support classrooms are very effective classrooms, and how we can create challenging tasks in the classrooms. So now I will share scaffolding in action. How can we do scaffolding? Okay, there are 2 different types of scaffolding that we can make. So the first one is designed in scaffolding, which is scaffolding, planned scaffolding. That is that we can do before the class. We can prepare before the class. And another is interactional and contingent scaffolding. So that is scaffolding that we provide at the point of need in the classroom. Okay, now let's start with designed in scaffolding. So what can we do here is that before we enter the classroom, we can think about these facts in advance to help the students have easier learning, to give student support in the classroom. So the first one is students' prior knowledge and experience. Of course, that is a very common way that teachers always do. So before we start a lesson, we always remind the students what they have learned and what they have known, and also we elicit students' background knowledge about the content and the language that we are going to give. That is a very useful way of scaffolding. Another thing is selection of tasks. So when we select the tasks, okay, before we enter the classroom, we plan the lesson, and then during the time, we also select the tasks. So when we are selecting the tasks, one thing we need to consider is that the tasks we are going to give the students must not include the language items, must not include the activity that make the students use the language items that they have never learned. So what I'm trying to say is that when we select the tasks, when the students are doing this task, they just need to use the language that they have known, that they have learned, and also the current ideas that they have already known. So if the tasks are, very challenging and students cannot accomplish that task with the knowledge and the language that they have learned, that kind of task cannot be a good task for the students. And also that kind of task cannot help the students do actual learning, cannot help students learning. So when we select the task, we need to be very careful with. We need to remind ourselves. We need to recall ourselves that, okay, students, what language items that they have learned and what knowledge that they have already got. We need to consider these things when we select the task. Another thing that we can plan in scaffolding before we, another thing that we can consider in designing scaffolding is sequencing of tasks. Planning the sequence of tasks is very important than focusing on any one individual task. So for example, let's say I'm going to use 3 types of tasks in my lesson today. So in these 3 tasks, the first task should be helpful to the students to do the next task. So that is the smooth flow of from one task to another. So sequencing your tasks is very important to do very good and very interactive individual tasks. And now the next one is the participant structures. So participant structure is also very important scaffolding structure. So for example, in our classroom, we can use different kinds of participant structures. But whatever we do, we should have a purpose of scaffolding. So for example, okay, at the beginning of the class, I will use whole class discussion. And also I will move on to group work. And then I will move on to pair work. So what is the purpose of changing the participant structures? So for example, firstly, I will start with whole class discussion. So that is, my purpose is that, okay, I will use the dialogic teaching. So to help the students how to think and how to reason, how to practice reasoning. So that is my purpose of using whole class discussion at the beginning of the lesson. Okay, now I have already give students how to think, how to reason. And then now I will give the students to work in small groups. So I changed my participant structure at this stage. So my purpose here is that, okay, in the whole class discussion, there may be some students, very introverted students, who may not have a chance to share in whole class discussion. So when I move to the participant structure to the small group discussion, so introverted students may probably have more chance to share their ideas in the group. So things like that. So changing the participant structures wisely and systematically, that will also help the students have better learning in the classroom. And also another important idea in scaffolding is that semiotic systems, which means providing access to similar information from a variety of sources, such as word charts, graphs, maps, photographs, diagrams, pictures, videos, films, and so on. So for example, that is semiotic system. We use semiotic system to give to help the students abundance of information. So for example, we have some reading text in the lesson. So to help the students have better understanding, so we show the video clips. That is a kind of scaffolding as well. And also, when we want the students to think about the similarities and differences, we will use the Venn diagram. Or that is also scaffolding to make the students see clearly so the differences and similarities. So things like that. And also teachers use of gestures and manners, behaviors that are also scaffolding to students in the classroom. Another thing is that mediation attacks. So mediation attacks means, for example, at the end of the lessons, we want the students to be able to write like argumentative essay. So throughout the lessons, we have it's metacognitive awareness here means helping the students how to remind themselves how to think. So things like that. Okay, for example, at the end of the lesson, we can ask the students like, okay, how did you work it out? Which idea helps you to figure it out this way? So things like that. So that is students can recall the way that they used to get this idea. So things like that. That is the sign and scaffolding. That is planning before we enter the class. Another thing is, another thing is that interaction and contingent scaffolding. That is providing scaffolding, providing support at the point of need. So here, so to give the example, we can use the corrective feedback to give scaffolding at the point of need. So for example, here I took the science activity, but it can be used in any type of context as well. So for example, reveal. So that is obviously that it is revealing the word. So for example, we are going to, I'm going to teach the student offshore production. So in this lesson, the word outsourcing is very important, very key term. Very important key term. So I revealed the word. Okay, we are going to discuss offshore production, in which, so this is the important word that you need to know, outsourcing. And I explained the word that is revealing. And also repeat, if this is the keyword that I want students use throughout the lesson, I will repeat that word in my explanation. So things like that. And replace, so that is clear that we replace a word with another word. And also repositioning. Let's say students, when they are discussing the idea, but they use in informal language, so we use academic words for that informal usage. We reposition the academic words in their informal discussion, so things like that. And also reload. Reload is kind of recycle. So when I explain the concept and the content, so I try to use the key ideas, the keywords that students need to know in this content, in this lesson. So things like that. That is giving scaffolding at point of need. Okay. Yeah. And now I would like to move on to, I would like to give you another scaffolding, another approach that is related to scaffolding, which is genre-based teaching approach. It is related to scaffolding. So this is the process of genre-based teaching. So for example, we are going to teach the student argumentative writing. And we want the students to be able to write the argumentative writing at the end of the lesson. Okay, so the first step in genre-based teaching is we build the context. We set the context, we build the field. So that means that in this stage, we will just give the students the content, the content idea. So for example, this is the stage of we build the content. So we will probably give the students some reading and also some listening tasks. And also we can do with some speaking activities as well. But we need to make sure that when we give the reading in the building the field, that reading should be aligned with the genre that we want the students be able to write at the end of the lesson. So for example, if we want the students to write argumentative essay at the end of the lesson, so our reading text should be that genre, argumentative essay, so things like that. And also we give listening tasks at the beginning of the lesson. So in that listening task should be, let's say, two people or two groups of people who have different ideas, who present different ideas. And so they have different arguments, so things like that. So that is building the context. So here is how we build the field. So in this stage, we are just building the field. We are just building the background knowledge for the students to help them be able to write or be able to speak at the end of, be able to speak the same genre at the end of the lesson. Okay, so after building the field, the next step we do in genre-based teaching is that teacher model and construct the genre by herself. So one teacher is modeling and constructing the genre. So teacher verbalizes while she is writing the essay, she is verbalizing what she is doing. So things like that. So in this stage, student can see what teacher is doing because teacher is doing while verbalizing. So students can learn that, oh, okay, teacher is doing this, doing that. So things like that. So after building the context, after building the fields, so we do modeling and constructing the essay. And then after that, so we do joint construction. So we write the essay, so together with teachers write the essay together with the students. Okay, so in building the context, we give the students reading text that have the same genre type that we want the students want to write at the end of the lesson. And also in the second stage, we modelly writing the essay, which has the same genre that we want the students want to write at the end of the lesson. And also now in joint construction, we are going to write the same type of genre with the students. Okay, that means that we give support and we give fully support in modeling and deconstruction. And the next stage, it's kind of we withdraw, we reduce support. Now students we give the students to speak their ideas about the content. And also, okay, how do you write the argument, the introduction? So now how do you give your argument? Okay, to make your argument stronger, how do you give the evidence? So things like that. So this is just joint construction. Now we are reducing the scaffolding. And finally, we ask the students to write independently. So in the previous stages, in the first stage, we have already built a strong context, a strong content information for the students with reading or listening and some speaking and interaction activities. And the next stage, we modeled writing. And also the next stage, we write the essay together with the students. And now students have already got adequate support. Now they are able to write the essay independently. So that is how we give scaffolding and how we withdraw scaffolding throughout the genre-based approach. So that's why genre-based approach is related to scaffolding, and we can use genre-based approach to give scaffolding. Okay. And also there is another approach that we can use to give students high support. This is dialogic teaching. We can use dialogic teaching at the beginning of the class after we have introduced the content, we can start with dialogic teaching. So here, have a look. So teacher introduced the argument like, should parents interfere in the choices their children make in life? And then students, teacher starts with this argument, these questions. That is, teacher is opening students' ideas. So students, they maybe active and out extroverted students, they start sharing their ideas. And also here, teacher use the sentence like, okay, so you are saying that parents should let their children make their own decisions. So teacher is rephrasing students' idea. That means that shows that teacher is engaging and teacher is listening to students' idea respectfully. And after that, teacher move to the next question. Do you agree with Thein and why? So that means teacher is practicing students' reasoning skills. And teacher is trying to involve the whole class in the discussion. And also here, teacher gives 10 seconds waiting time. That is also scaffolding. Because we always have diverse classrooms. So here I'm focusing, I'm talking about diverse students. Here I'm talking about some students, they are extroverted, they can think very quickly. And some students, they are introverted. So some introverted students, they need to listen to other students' idea first to build up their ideas. So that's why waiting time in the class is also scaffolding, effective scaffolding. And teacher is doing this. And so teacher got some response from the students. And now teacher move on to the next one. So does anyone else have anything to add? So that is teacher asking some more response from the students. And also teacher asks, do you agree or not? So this is kind of, teacher is practicing reasoning skills for the students. Okay, when they hear an idea, teacher allows the students to think whether they agree or not this idea. And also, whenever they say something, teacher asks the reasons and the evidence. That is practicing reasoning skills. That is, teacher is trying to move lower order thinking to higher order thinking skills. So things like that. And now the last point here, teacher asks, do you have any evidence for that? So that is, teacher is preparing students to think critically. So to improve reasoning skills as well. Whenever they say something, teacher asks the evidence. So this is how dialogic teaching is working. So by practicing dialogic teaching, so we can use dialogic teaching as a good scaffolding strategy to improve students' critical thinking skills and higher order thinking skills, in other words. Okay, so thank you so much. So now any questions?
Thank you, teacher Khaing. Okay, if you have any questions, okay, you can unmute your microphone, and also you can also drop in the chat box.
Actually, I expected that the interactions. So it's kind of weird that if I didn't get any interaction when I was talking.
We are thinking to ask questions because there's so much to learn in your presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you, teacher. Thank you very much. Okay, before other people ask questions, it's not a question, but it's just out of curiosity, teacher. You talked about extensively about the scaffolding, different types of scaffolding, and I would like to know a bit more about, when and how we can give scaffolding to different age groups of students. Can we use the same, the tool and then the same techniques to different groups of people from different age? So that's one thing that I have in mind when I was listening to you, teacher.
So actually, just scaffolding, different types of scaffolding. For different types of level, we should use different types of scaffolding. So even for, let's say, genre-based approach, we can use genre-based, of course, we can use genre-based approach for different types or different levels of students, but so the, how can I say, the types of support that we give will differ. So for example, in building the context for lower level students, we probably start with reading support, reading text rather than giving listening support. So things like that. Yeah. And also the language that we use in our reading text so that will be aligned with students' level. So things like that. Yeah. And also for the lower level students, we will better use this one, semiotic systems. So in lower level classes here, I always put the graphs and also the pictures. For example, so today let's say my topic is fashion. So I use some useful words about fashion. I stick them on the wall, and also some useful pictures that can help the students understand fast fashion. So things like that. Yeah. So I think semiotic systems will help lower level students to give more scaffolding.
Yeah, thank you, teacher. So, so what I have concluded from your answer is that, okay, if we are teaching the younger learners or the lower level students, it's good to use the visuals, the infographics, so that they can understand the concepts better.
Yeah, true, teacher.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much, teacher. Yeah, there's a question that I can see, teacher. It is from teacher Nan Mato, and she is asking that, okay, how best we can scaffold the students when we are teaching a large group of students, 25 students at the primary level? This is a very good question. I think this and the answer for this can be very useful for most of us teaching young learners, teacher.
Okay, so 25 students to keep the scaffolding. Okay, so so as I said, we have different types of we can use a lot different types of things to give scaffolding. So like asking the students, and then we give wait time. So that is also scaffolding. And also teacher using gestures and manners to describe a word, that is also scaffolding. And even sometimes we use some dictionary meaning, that is also scaffolding. Okay, so for the students, 25 students, lower level students, so we can use participant structure is also important for this level too. So like so as I said before, we should start with whole class discussion as well. Whole class discussion. And then, so as I said before, in the class we have diverse students. So there are some students who are very shy and very introverted. So in the whole, we start with whole class discussion, but we should not invite those introverted students to share their ideas first, because the introverted students, they need more time to think, and they need to listen to others' idea first to make their ideas. So if we ask the introverted students first, they may probably have to speak with half-baked ideas. So that is also scaffolding. Okay, so I will start with whole class discussion, and then I will invite the introverted students. That is also kind of scaffolding. And also I will move them to, like small group discussions. So that let those shy students to talk. So things like that.
Yes, teacher. So, okay, usually when we teach, although we have the placement test, and then we name the classroom according to their levels, for example, intermediate level, pre-intermediate level, but even in that class, there can be a mixed level of students. Some students with different personality type and different language background and different learning experiences. Then can we use the same type of scaffolding to the whole class? In that case, and when we are having the challenges of having to deal with people of different background, different level, how best can we scaffold in this situation, teacher?
So I think, in my opinion, in that kind of situation, we always have mixed class. So I will go back to participant structure as well. So when we ask them to work in groups, I will make the students so I will put in the group, I will put stronger students and weaker level students together, so that they can help each other in the group discussion. And also, at that time in their discussion, I will monitor the groups. And for example, for stronger students, I may just help them if they don't know a new word. I may help them with, that is, you need a noun here. So a stronger student, they can use, this is a noun. So they can change, they can use the word noun. But for the so lower level students, I may probably, reveal the word. So things like that. So we use different kinds of support to different levels of students. So to be able to do that, I think we have to let them work in groups, because in the whole class, we cannot monitor easily. So when we make groups, we can monitor the groups, we can reach to the group easily, and we can listen to what they are talking. and then we will give more support to lower level students. And also, another thing we can do is that sometimes I prepare useful language that students need to use in their discussion, but I deliver them to every student. I just give them as a support to lower level students. Okay, you can use this language when you discuss, or things like that.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you so much. So let's see whether we have more questions here from
Yes,
the
teacher, there's one question, teacher.
Yes,
It's a
teacher.
question from teacher Sumo. She wants to know that one more example about meta-linguistics, teacher Khaima.
Meta-linguistics.
Yeah,
Okay,
can you give more example about meta-linguistics?
Yeah, so meta-linguistic is that instead of me using the words, okay, here is, let's say, so for example, meta-linguistic means the language that talk about language. Okay, so for example, we use a verb phrase and we use a noun phrase, that is the meta-language. Instead of talking about, okay, what is that? Okay, here we use, okay,
yes, the language to describe the language.
Yeah, the language that describe the language. Okay, for example, here there is, okay, there is followed by a noun or a noun phrase. So that is a noun phrase is the meta language. So instead of saying that, okay, there is a group of people, there is a cat. So there is can be followed by a noun phrase. So a noun phrase that is include a noun and an adjective, so things like that. So meta-linguistic is the language that we use to describe the language use. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
are you happy
Yes.
with the answer?
Yeah. In my experience, when I teach younger learners, younger age group learners, and lower level students, I try to use the meta language less. But as the students have become older and in a higher level, I tend to use that. The terms, the technology, the terms and terminology to describe them. For example, here, this is the use of present perfect continuous. So I use the terms, but with the younger levels, I kind of try to use less of them. Yes,
Yeah.
in my experience. Yes.
Makes them sometimes confused.
Yes, okay, these names, they are very confusing, teacher. And here we have one question and another teacher having the hand raised, but I will ask the questions written here in the chat box first, and we'll go back to teacher Dorky Khaing later. So the question is, how can we know exactly if the student reaches the independent state and we no longer need to provide scaffolding? A very good question, teacher. Yes, good question. Thank you.
Okay. So actually, yeah, I was supposed to put it in my presentation, but so as I said before, I didn't get any interaction. So, okay, to be able to know whether or not students need support, okay, more support, less support, we need to monitor throughout the classroom. So at every stage, we need to monitor the classroom so that we can know that, okay, so students are not able to walk by themselves at this stage. Oh, now students, they can walk more. So we need to monitor the whole process of teaching and learning. And when we know that, okay, so they can do it, for this group of students, okay, they can do it by themselves, we withdraw our scaffolding for those students. And for some other students, if we think that they need more scaffolding, so we still keep giving scaffolding. So the answer here is that we need to monitor and observe the class throughout our teaching.
Yes, close monitoring. And it also depends, in my experience, it also depends on the type of task that we give to the students. If we are doing accuracy-oriented tasks, then students may need more support from us. And okay, maybe they want to have more correct grammar, more correct pronunciation. But if we are doing, for me, okay, some fluency-oriented tasks, then because I want them to be able to use the language comfortably and confidently, then I don't interfere that much, and I let them go at their own pace. And then, okay, so although there is scaffolding, but I don't do a lot of intervening with the students at that stage. Just sharing. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Sorry.
Thank you, teacher. And also, yeah, so to answer the previous question, so I just got the idea. So for the lower level students, what we can do is that, okay, we can give the structure of a sentence. So for example, for stronger students, we will give them the structure. Okay, now we are going to teach you how to make conditional sentence. We give the structure and then ask them to do the conditional sentences. But for the lower level students, we can give half of the sentence. So things like that.
Thank you, teacher. Thank you. Yes. Okay. The visual prompts on the board or somewhere they can see. Yes. So that they feel confident, and it's a very good symbol of scaffolding. Thank you. So there's a question from teacher Galea, but before we go on, I like to give the floor to teacher Khaing. Oh God, she's been raising her hands. Teacher Khaing, do you have a question? Can you please have your mic on and talk to us directly, teacher?
Yeah. Good evening, teachers. Actually, this is not a question. This is just a thank you note to teacher Khaing. And I would like to say that I'm teaching adult learners. Their level is between A1 and A2. I think A2 and B1. So they're just like beginner level, right? So in my lesson, I think my lessons are lack of challenging activities. So today's webinar reminds me that I need to put more challenging tasks for my student to become an effective classroom. So according to Bloom's taxonomy, my activities are like, my activity stops when they apply their language and they apply their lesson. So I think I should more put like creative or analyzing or evaluative activities in my test. So actually, I haven't been to webinars or like this for quite a long time. So this is the second time that I joined during like these 2 years. So I would like to say thank you to teacher Khaing, and I would like to say see you. I also really glad to see you here.
Me too, Ma. So yeah, and also Ma, too, my another suggestion is that okay, you stop in applying stage, but before that you also you started with remembering, right, Ma? So what we discussed in the presentation, so we cannot skip any stage.
Yeah.
So that's okay, Ma. So your students are currently beginner level, so you may probably in application applying level. So in the next level, you can go up to any other higher level. So
I hope so.
doesn't mean that, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that we should use every stage. I mean, we need to finish. We need to we need to reach the highest level that is creating for any type of level student. So as I understand, your students are just the A1. So you start with remembering, and then they understand, and then they can apply what they have understood. So that is quite enough. And in later lessons, you can create some more creative tasks, which encourage them to evaluate and create. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions?
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, thank you, teacher Khaing and teacher Khaing. Okay, there's one more question in the chat box from teacher Clara. Okay, she said she wants teacher, how can I study or practice to be a good teacher who has good interaction with students, can engage in a class? Is there any useful website to know or study good pedagogical skills to be fair and interactive way? Is there any website you would like to recommend to be checked later? Check Khaing.
Okay, so any website. So actually, I think we have already learned it. I mean, the teaching methodology, we know communicative language teaching, we know task-based teaching. And also in my presentation as well, I mentioned dialogic teaching. So sometimes our activities should not be very sophisticated. So the message that I want to give today is that although our activities are not very sophisticated, but the tasks that we use in our lesson, throughout the lesson, should be in a sequence. So in the order of the sequence, in the good sequence, careful planning of the sequence. For example, the first task that we ask the students to do must be the help, the support of the next task. So that is how we smoothly move from the first task to the next task. So for example, so dialogic teaching, it's just asking questions, just asking and answering questions. But in asking and answering questions, if teacher can use, the verbs that I mentioned in Bloom's taxonomy. So we start with, let's say, recall, and then we move to the next question that to check students' understanding. And then we move to the next question to ask the students apply. So that is just the asking question, but we move higher order thinking skills to lower order thinking skills. So that is also challenging the task. So the activity should not be very sophisticated. So are you happy with the answer?
Yes, teacher, it's fine. Any website you would like to recommend so as to maximize student engagement in our classroom? This is what she wants to know.
Okay. I use Kahoot games, integrated the games, and also Words Wall, and also Game Kit, so things like that. Yeah, that's it. So the games. So for the pedagogy, so I always go for task-based teaching. I think task-based teaching is one of the best approach to get students' engagement. We always give students a task. So students, whenever they learn things by doing. So they always have a task to report, to present at the end of the activity. So I think use the task-based teaching. That is the best, one of the best approach to get students' engagement.
Thank you, teacher. There's one more question from teacher Paula Perry. I think I'm right. Okay. In which situation should we use more scaffolding? In which situation?
In which situation? In which situation should we use
I think that she
more
wants to, should we do all the time, scaffolding all the time, or in which particular situation should we use scaffolding?
Okay. So I think every classroom we should use scaffolding, because as I said before, if we want to create effective classrooms, our classroom should have challenging tasks for the students. So as long as we have challenging tasks and cognitively demanding tasks, we must give scaffolding. So that's it. So that means we have to use scaffolding in every classroom. So to be able to give scaffolding, to be able to give it adequate support, we need to keep monitoring the students throughout the learning process, throughout the classroom. So, okay, to get more scaffolding, if our task is more challenging and students need more support, so we get more scaffolding. We also need to look at our learning outcomes. So what is our learning outcomes? So to reach that learning outcomes, students have the background knowledge. Students have this kind of background knowledge, only this level. And we want to reach this level. So depending on what we want the students have at the end of the lesson and what students have already got, we need to, enhance or increase or reduce our scaffolding. Yeah.
Yes, also, I'm also in favor of you, Teacher Khaing. If students are weak, we need to scaffold. If students are, how can I say, they are challenging or okay, they are good at in their language, we need to maximize the challenge. Okay, yeah. I'm also in favor of you. Okay, there's one more question, teacher. It's a question from teacher Julie. Her question is a little bit general. What methods is the best way to generate students' idea about the context that we are going to teach?
To elicit students' idea?
Yes, okay. Generics to elicit to maximize.
All right. So for me, to elicit what students have already known, I ask the students questions, a lot of questions. So at the beginning of the class. And also I use, but asking the questions, sometimes if we use the same activities every time, it will be boring for the students. So even to ask the question, I use different types of, activities. So sometimes, okay, I bring a doll, and then so throw at a doll to a student, ask the question, and then that student answer the question. And then so before that, I write down the questions on the whiteboard, on the screen. And then, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 questions. So I read the first question first. And then after reading the question, I throw at the door at one student. So that student, it's answering this time. But here I would like to suggest you not to call the student's name first. So ask the question first. So you ask the question first, and then you call the name of the student. So if you call the student's name first, so they will know that, okay, so this question is for him. So I don't need to pay attention. So things like that. So for me, I always say my question first, and then, okay, you answer this question. So things like that. And then I move to the next question, and then you answer the question. So question first, name later. So things like that is also a good way. So for me, I always ask the question, but to be able to use this activity, I use different ways, not to repeat the ideas, the activities in the class.
Yes, also I think asking questions is very useful in the classroom, but meaningful questions are more useful. Teacher, there's one more question in the chat box, teacher. But teacher, I think, okay, how should I do when there is no time for giving time to students to talk? There's no time for students to talk. What should he do?
There is no time. And so the thing is that our lessons don't need to be, we need to make sure that our lessons are not hurried. So you need to be careful when you start lesson planning, and you need to make sure that students have time to talk. So you can manage it with the activities and the tasks that you are going to use in the classroom. Because we always plan the lesson, so we can make sure that thing happen. We can make sure that students have enough time to talk when we start planning the lessons.
Okay, since planning the lesson, we need to mind that we have enough time for students to talk or to plan the lesson.
But sometimes, there can be some unexpected problems happen in the classroom. For example, we said, okay, let's 10 minutes for this activity, but sometimes student may take longer that time. So we need to be careful with the time as well. So set the time. So we need to be careful with the setting of the time. Okay, so if students take longer as we expected, try to make sure that you move to the next activity. Okay, or if the activity is not that very important for the students to learn and to achieve the learning outcomes today, so just skip it. So teacher, you are the boss in the classroom. So just forget, but don't forget the learning outcomes of today to the lesson. So if you can, although you skip this lesson, this activity, still students can meet the learning outcomes. So just skip it. So things like that.
Okay, our lesson plan should be flexible as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just are the adapter of the lesson. Yeah.
Okay. Teacher May, thank you for sharing the link. Okay, because your link answered the question. Could you send me some more effective scaffolding information again? Okay. This is the question by teacher Ben Epu.
Okay. Thank you, teacher.
Okay, I think later we'll also upload this video on our YouTube channel, this page. Okay, you can study, and also you can also like you can also see in teacher Khaima. Okay, she will be sharing some more information about scaffolding information because she share a lot. Okay, any questions? Chemi, any questions?
Teacher, any comments?
No, teacher, yeah. It's such a great session, theoretically sound, and good examples and very practical techniques, the tips for the classrooms. So thank you so much. I think someone else will also say what's up thanks to you. So if there are more questions and comments, we really enjoyed your session, teacher. Yeah, and we would like to invite you again. Yes,
Yeah,
teacher.
thank you so much, teacher. Actually, I was a bit stressed when I was presenting.
No, you did very well, teacher. Yes, okay. We really enjoyed every minute of it, teacher.
Yeah. When I was presenting, okay, when I said this, so did my audience have this background already or not? So I was deciding when I was presenting. So it's a lot of struggle.
Yeah, I think most of us have heard of this term scaffolding, but okay, what you did today was very theoretical, sound background, the terms and terminology on scaffolding and the tips. Okay, for me it's new. Okay, and I've been teaching for some time, and I've been doing this, but the technical terms, they are new for me. So it's new learning for me. So I learn new things from you. So thank you so much, teacher.
Okay, are there any?
Thank you, Teacher Khaing. Thank you, Teacher Me. Actually, I'm the one who takes the role to say thanks to. But already thanks by to Teacher Me and Teacher Khaing. You are very special. Okay, just kind of as kind of formality on behalf of Amandisa and all the teachers present here. Thank you very much, Teacher Khaima, for your very informative and very engaging sections. It's really great for oral X. Actually personally for me, I have learned what scaffolding is, but not the way you present today. Just a little bit. We know theories and we know so many methodologies or terms a lot. We also keep it in mind, and we'll also use this. We also use this in our future classroom. So thank you very much, Teacher Khaima. Okay. Secondly, I also would like to thank to the Streamline International for the Zoom sponsor, and also I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the all Amandisa volunteers for your continuous support. Okay, last but not the least, okay, I would like to thanks to all the participants for your continuous professional development. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, please read the form.
Yeah, teacher Khaima, if you don't mind, would you like to share your PowerPoints in PDF version or whatever? Okay, to us so that we can share with the participants who are present today.
Yeah, I'll do it, teacher. I'll do it.
Yes, yeah, you can do it now or later. Yeah. Because we are going to send the attendance certificate to them after they have completed the form, okay, in the next week, not tonight, okay, because we have to wait for some people who have very slow connection, so we are waiting for people. So in the next week, we are going to send out the certificates to everyone who have completed the form.
Yep, I'll prepare it and send it to you, teacher. Okay, so if there is no questions, should we stop here?
Yes, teacher, yes.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Thank you. So my question, it's not a question, it's an invitation. So when will you, do more webinars for us?
Teacher, actually, I am planning to do it, regularly. So because I have quite a lot of new ideas for me, for the TESOL context, from the TESOL context, quite a lot of new ideas. So actually, before I came here, I just knew teaching and learning. So steady teaching. I cannot, because my teaching, my thinking cannot be escaped from just the teaching, just looking at the classroom. My ideas cannot go out of the classroom. But after learning TESOL after studying TESOL at Monash University, every specialization is related to the main focus of teaching, like diversity, social justice, and inclusion. So there are quite a lot of ideas in TESOL. So I have a lot more to contribute, teacher.
Yes, that's great. They are new for us. Okay, usually when we think of teaching, teaching grammar, teaching vocabulary, teaching reading, writing, but these areas, social inclusion, social justice, they should be here. They should be everywhere in classrooms, not only in teaching English. So yes, please bring them in, and
Yes.
you are most welcome. Yeah, and your ideas are most welcome.
And also now I know the context of the presentation in Myanmar TESOL Association. So I'm not familiar with the context. So actually, to be honest, I was not very comfortable and convenient to give the presentation today.
Actually, no, you did very, very well. And also